There you go. I'm gonna kind of present it, and then at the end, I'm leaving room for like questions and things like that. But I'm sure that after I'm done talking, you're gonna have a ton of questions. And also, at the end, I'm gonna give all of you here free entry into one of the art journaling lessons that's this month, Inspiration Any Day. So that link I'll have for you at the end too. So force you to stay with me. Get my. Oh, wait, there's one little chat happening here. Dog sitting. So there you go. That was you, Patsy, I think. All right, let me do a screen share to get this going. All right, can you still see me and the screen that says 5 ways to support Patreon? Support matters on Patreon. Awesome. All right, so I decided to do this because I get so many questions every month about what is Patreon. And I thought, I think it's kind of scary. A lot of times people just even look at the name and they're like, what the hell does that say? But basically the idea of Patreon comes from people being patrons. And if you go back to like the Renaissance and people supporting artists and arts, that's where Patreon came from. And so the cool thing about Patreon is that they've done all the work and they've created this entire interface that basically creates this online studio for artists, creatives. So you don't have to go get a website and pay somebody to do all that work and to set it up. They've done all the work, and artists like me can go there and create this kind of exclusive, unique, curated event for their fans, and kind of not having a studio space anymore. This is the next best thing to being able to have this kind of space just for you. Sorry, I'm stopping because I've got to let somebody in and things are popping up on my screen. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Get out of there. Sorry. I can't multitask apparently. I'm not sure if I can. Sorry. Let's let them in and now I'll go back. We're all off the cuff here. There you go. All right. So what is Patreon? That's set up, curated for artists. You can do in Patreon, anybody, not special. And then I'm called a creator. So if I'm hosting a studio there, I'm a creator. You can look for other creators there. But this is kind of important because when people go on Patreon, they're like, am I a creator? Are you a creator? Because we're all creatives, but I'm a creator on Patreon. And I like visuals. So I'm going to do my little visual here. So imagine Patreon is this huge building filled with artist studios, artists that are poets and writers and painters and all the way up to like gamers and cryptocurrency. Anybody that's kind of got information that they want to share with their public. So that's Patreon, only it's in a computer screen. So we've got this computer, it's Patreon, and then there are studios inside Patreon. And I just happen to be one of the artists that have a studio space inside of Patreon. And then you subscribe, you're subscribing to my studio on the Patreon platform. So hopefully I like visuals. So usually I do food, but food didn't apply here. All right, so the membership platform actually makes it possible for me to share things in a way that I couldn't normally share if I just had a website, because it does all that back end work. And the other part of it is that it is a subscription base. So it allows me to actually gain support. Artists like you support artists like me, and you actually become a patron of the arts, and it brings in an income that it's hard when you're an independent artist or an entrepreneur that to have a regular income, and Patreon actually allots for that. So it's good for me on that end. All right. What's the hard truth? COVID hit, took out my business, took me out. And if it wasn't for Patreon and the subscribers, people that were supporting me through that, I would have never been able to survive COVID. I like to say it's my gift of hope. So what happens there? So you get to Patreon, this big building with individual studios. And I like to imagine it that like you go to Patreon and you're walking through all these studios and you're just like, oh, well, let me check out this one. Let me check out that one. Kind of like this open space. But what happens there? Well, I do a lot of videos. I love to teach. I was a teacher in my former life. So the things that I would normally do is people would kind of take a class online. I'm actually turning my camera on and recording almost 99% of what I do and making it available through tutorials and lessons and techniques and things like that. You have immediate access to all kinds of things. So we have those monthly lessons. There is monthly art challenges. There's polls that the actual patrons decide what color challenges I'm going to do. I'm really kind of focused on color right now. So I've been allowing them to pick the colors that they want me to play with. There's discounts and there's all kinds of challenges and things like that on there. But it also, so let's just say you decide June, I liked what Donna said, so I'm going to subscribe for the month of June. June's going to be my first month. You not only get what I put out for June, but you also gain access for every single thing that I've ever done before. Your subscription allows you entrance to the studio and everything in it at the tier you decide to subscribe to. So if you decide I'm just going to do a month, see how it is, you don't just get a limited amount of information. You actually get everything that has come before. It's all archived. Art critiques. This is kind of cool because a lot of people that I find that are like me, they don't have a whole lot of art friends and maybe they get stuck on something. So there's tiers where you can actually be a part of a give and take of like, hey, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do here. And you could submit a piece of artwork every month and I can actually help and walk you through it. There's an entire tier that's set up for business tips. So let's just say you're a hobbyist, but you would really like to make an income, maybe even a little income, or put your artwork in a gallery, or write an artist statement, or learn how to frame your work. There's an entire section of the Patreon that is incorporating the business tips that, you know, as your self-taught artist, this isn't some kind of handbook that you get that be like, oh, I'm going to become a working artist now and you know what to do. Seeking that kind of information is kind of hard to find. So I put it all in one plot. I do art in the mail for some subscription tiers. So actually every month you might just get a piece of original artwork in the mail if you subscribe. And I also do exclusive gifts like stickers and posters and t-shirts, and they're curated for just the Patreon people. And they're geared towards that too. So they're relevant. And then the last one is like this intimate studio. I told you, I turn the camera on. It's you, me creating. It's not some kind of vacuum type thing. And it's not something that has a start and a finish. It's actually something that is ongoing. You're working with me alongside bird's eye view, like I would be in the studio. And I decided, you know, you can't just say, oh, this is what we do here. Let's take a little sneak peek at what actually happens on there. What does it look like when I get a lesson on there? So I just kind of compiled a whole bunch of things together, but here's some sample things. This is the inspiration journal that I work in. I've been taking this deep dive into color. Sometimes I do random things, like I play with sculpture or I play with encaustic. Of course, I always include poppies because I love those. But I also do things like art journaling, altered book, figurative work, florals, and things like that. So just like a bird's eye view of what kind of stuff we do there. Hey, don't do that again. Go to the next slide. All right. So other things, here's like other past lessons that are incorporated in there. You can see there's kind of fun things with figure painting. Van Gogh is always a favorite. But you can see altered book, another sculpture, florals. I play with all different mediums, mostly acrylic because most of the patrons on there like acrylic, but there is some oil. That middle one is encaustic, a bit of Frida, a little color study, florals, a little sneak peek at kind of the stuff, all the archived lessons. The other question is, how much does it cost? What do I got to do? What do I got to put in there? And what I like about Patreon is it is 100% on your terms. So you get to decide. There's several tiers. You come in at whatever level works for you. I have 5 tiers. And the beginning, the entry, like the gateway tier into Patreon is the fan tier. It's a $5 subscription and price of cup of coffee at Starbucks, a small cup of coffee at Starbucks. And for the $5 a month, this is really geared towards, if any of you here took Inspiration Wednesday back in the day when I would open the journal and play, people miss that. People for years have been saying, why can't you bring that back? Bring it back. So I decided to include it in Patreon. And so if you're like, listen, I love Inspiration Wednesday, that's all I'm into. I like mixed media. I like art journaling. This is the tier for you. It's not just including that, but this is basically what you're getting in this tier. It doesn't have the meat, which you're going to get in the second tier, which is the follower tier. And this is a $20 subscription. All the subscriptions as they price up include all the ones before them. So it's not like either or. The next tier up includes the $5 tier and everything in that as well. So I call this kind of the meat, the heart of what happens. Almost everything I do goes in here creatively. Things like art journaling, interviews, vlogs, behind the scenes, color studies, figurative, floral, abstract. It's really the compilation of sitting in a studio with me and kind of working. Let's go to the next one. Most popular, like I said, this is the meat. This is where the nitty gritty happens. All right, the member tier. Again, the member tier as you price up includes all the ones before it. This is the one that I set up specifically for artists that are trying to break away from just a hobby and maybe wanting to go into more of a profitable side of art. And I don't even mean like you have to start your own business. I mean, like just things like, how do I frame my artwork? What kind of lighting do I need if I want to record something? How can I make affiliate sales doing what I'm doing? All of those questions that kind of someone like me who has kind of run the ranks and figured out how to do it can help you skip over those hurdles. But also in this tier is included monthly art challenges. This is the tier that has the monthly art critique. So I have artists that submit just a piece of artwork. And usually this is any number of ways. Some people are like, I'm just going to send you an email. Just tell me what you think. I've had people text me. I've had people do Zoom calls or FaceTime calls because they want a little bit more information or a visual on it. So that's included in there. But again, that entire library of things that I do as a professional. And each month I feature just another thing. I don't throw it all at you. It's just like another tidbit that could go along. And some people are really just not sure if they want to make the decision to go into a profit kind of art for business kind of thing. And this kind of helps them figure it out too. The second to last tier, I actually started this one a year ago. I had so many amazing people that followed me, patrons, that said, I know you're in a rough time. COVID's hit. I want to just support you. So I created this collector tier. This is $100. Again, includes everything before it. But this one, I decided if people want to support me in such an awesome time, the least I can do is to send original artwork. So this one I call the art in the mail tier. I send those people at the collector tier an small original piece of artwork in the mail every month, just as a thank you for your support. And then the last tier, I just added in a couple months ago. I've had a lot of students and patrons want mentoring, but some of them just aren't ready to really take a dive into having a mentor or an art coach. So this is kind of like a light version of mentoring, where this also includes everything else that came before it. But this one, you get one monthly art coaching mentoring session. This is not like a flat kind of thing. This is whatever you need, I help and work with you on. So it's not specific in any way. It's really tailored to what each mentee or each patron wants to know more about, and maybe decide if they want to go the mentoring route or maybe if they're not ready. So it's kind of like that little mentor light. Probably the best part of Patreon is it's flexible. And what I mean by that is you're accessible on your schedule. No matter what time of day you want to go there, you can go there at 2:00 in the morning or 2:00 in the afternoon and access all of the lessons that are on there. It's also super fluid to move between tiers. So what that means, and I'm going to put this out there too, because I want you all to sign up for Patreon, but I don't want you to do it until the 1st. So Patreon does their subscription on the 1st of the month. If you registered tonight, although I'd love to take 2 fees, you would pay for the month of May, and then June 1st pay for June. So wait to the 1st of the month to go ahead and decide if you want to join Patreon. But let's just say you go, I'm going to join Patreon at the $5 level in June. You sign up June 1st. And then maybe you're a subscriber for 3 months at $5. And you say, you know what? I'd really like to see what I'm missing at the $20 tier. At any point, you could go ahead and go up to the next tier and subscribe at that for a month, 2 months if you want. Maybe it's summer and you're a school teacher and you're like, I'm going to say $5 until it's the summer, and then I can access whatever I want for these months. So I'm going to round or tier up. You just go into your membership, change your tier. And at the end, when you don't want to be at that membership, you change back. Let's just say you're like, Donna, that's great, but I only have July where I can do anything because I'm super busy. You can come in for a month and come out for a month. Come in 3 months later for a month if you want. So it's really fluid. You're not like, and that's the next one, you're not locked into any kind of commitment. So it's not like you have to subscribe for a year or 3 months or anything. It's just really user friendly. So you can decide, even if you wanted to mentor for 1 month, you could do that. Or if you wanted to see what kind of business tips were there for a month, you could do that because you have access to everything once you're in for the longevity of the subscription at the tier you're at. All right. So who are my patrons? I certainly, go back. I certainly could not present this without sharing my patrons, and it's not rolling. So this is a fun game we're playing. Let's try this again, shall we? And go. Haha. All right. So who are my patrons? My patrons are everyday people from all walks of life, all basic beginners to seasoned professionals. They join Patreon for a lot of reasons. A lot of it is to have the community. It's to learn a little bit more. It's to have maybe someone guide them through something. I'm the kind of artist that I like to play on different things. So I'm not a one-trick pony. Sometimes people just like a little variety. And I kind of fit a lot of facets for a lot of people. And my patrons have been with me for 19 days, right up to 2 years when I started it. They're at all different levels. And it's just kind of this one family that they kind of come in, come out, and just join the party. Okay. And so I had patrons from all tiers kind of reach out, and they said they wanted to be a part of tonight's presentation. So I had them just say a few words about how their experience through Patreon is. Dorothy's been with me for 2 years at the $5 tier. Debbie has been a client of mine that came to the studio all the time. She missed the studio and she joined the $20 tier because she just wanted to be a part of whatever teaching that was happening. Like I said, it's like walking into a studio space and getting one-on-one attention, and kind of at your own pace. Ellen, again, she has been a patron of not only me on here, but has come to my studio, I think probably 80% of the workshops that I did at the physical studio when I had it. She does the 49 because she does a lot of different things and she really likes to know, how do I sell my artwork? She's doing probably craft shows and things like that where she might need different things like, oh, they asked me for an artist statement, or I have to frame my work before I get there. How do I apply to shows and things like that? So that's why she likes the $49 tier. Edie is actually the person that pushed me to do the $100 tier. She wanted to support me and she said, how can I support you more? And she loves getting things in the mail. And so that's where the idea of art in the mail came from. And she's kind of the inspiration for that tier. And then Cindy is one of my beloved friends. We are, just find people in this world that you don't know before and you connect. She's that person. She is at the mentor tier. She likes the accountability. She likes to be pushed. She likes to be challenged. And she also likes someone to bounce ideas off of and to make sure she's going in the right direction. So she stays at that tier. So really why you're here was the 5 reasons, and I didn't go over those 5 reasons, and maybe I should do that at some point. So I kind of narrowed it down. There's 100 reasons really that your support matters on Patreon. But I kind of narrowed it down to 5 main things. And so number 1 is community. I know that this word is thrown out a lot, but once COVID hit, it took on a whole different definition, I think. The community, the art community, I think was limited to social media, and it was maybe in groups and it was a disconnect. But Patreon really allows for the exchange of audience and artist. And that's what I like about it. I like that art is not something that has a start and a stop, it's a continuation. And the community kind of lets that happen. Exclusive content, I've talked a little bit about that, but I am now probably 90% focused on just providing content for Patreon. I do my Zoom online classes, but really those are the only 2 things that I'm focusing on, putting that content out there. And it is like being in a studio space, sharing, I'm turning the camera on, I'm working with you, I'm sharing. Plus there's also some exclusive perks. Like I was saying, I'm designing stickers and posters and t-shirts just for the Patreon community based off of what we're doing. And so when you get a shirt in the mail, it's relevant. It's not just one that says Donna Downey. It's because it has something to do with what we're doing on Patreon. And it's just a kind of nice way to give back to the people that are supporting me. Co-creation. This is really interesting. So as a patron, you're kind of a part of my work. This doesn't happen where I'm just separate and I'm just sharing. This really is cyclical. It is co-creation, right down to the polls. I've dedicated this year to color, and I've been doing a lot of things with making color grids and making artworks from that. And it's really been pretty enlightening to have a direct kind of communication between what colors do you have in your stash, what gets you frustrated, what inspires you. They always say purple because they know I don't like purple, so they throw that into the mix to see if I can do it. But I'm always surprised that I learn something even at this stage of the game when somebody challenges me to do something or even try something that they love, and in back and forth. So that co-creation, this is really like a together inspiration there. All access, this goes back to once you're in as a subscriber, you don't have limited access to your tier. It's not just for the month you're subscribing, it's to everything that's come before it. And you also get things, some of you might have been in part of my Zoom classes where there's discount codes. If you're subscribed at the $20 tier, you get $20 off the Zoom classes. So it's kind of like free to be in Patreon when you sign up for the classes. And again, polls and critiques and professional coaching and things like that. You get access to everything I'm doing. I don't hold back. And then the most important one of the 5 ways that your support matters is that making the shift through COVID has just kind of put all these different things into perspective, but also forced the way artists like me are doing things. And your support not only helps me and supports me, but it also helped me do things like buy a microphone, buy cameras, supports any kind of software, hardware things that I have to do so that I can make sure that I am still relevant, that I can still interact. So your support actually creates this bigger, it's like a snowball. Like when you support, I do something and then it just kind of keeps snowballing and snowballing into this beautiful creative space that Patreon affords. So the next question is, okay, how do I access it? Patreon is a really easy platform, but I know that people are just not liking new things. It's like another thing. If you're like me, you've got every password and username written down in a notebook, and it's another place you have to go. And I get that it's frustrating, but I want to go back to that original image of the big building with the studios inside. This is how you access me on Patreon. It's Patreon/Donna Downey. I'm a studio. inside of Patreon. And that's just as simple as that, because it's not Donna Down. It's not my website. I am a studio in a bigger place. So it's like a freestanding virtual studio somewhere outside of my website. So when you go in there, and there's the link up there, it looks like this. This is the landing page, the header I have on there now. I talked really quickly about I'm a creator. Well, this is where you would find creators. And there's other people, other artists that you might love that are in there as well. People like Elizabeth St. Hilaire, KP from Art Foamies. There's thousands of artists, watercolor. Like I said, the artists range from musicians to theater. They even have gaming. And recently I just found out cryptocurrency people are in there, and they just have followings, people that want to follow and learn more. They just they have their own studios. And like I said, imagine walking in the building and being able to look left and right at all the studio spaces that are in there. And I put this last little note in here, that login. Whenever anybody has a problem on Patreon, I just call them up. Sometimes it's just too difficult to do an email. But typically 9 times out of 10, the reason why people can't access Patreon is because they haven't logged in. So they get to this page and they're like, I can't see my stuff, but you just need to log in. And once you log in, you're in. So when you get there, it says select a membership level. And I've put those membership levels out for you here. These are the 5 I talked about previously. There's all different ranges, and I term them as fan, follower, member, collector, art coaching. And you can see on the bottom too, it gives you a little shout out of like, oh, there's an exclusive bonus. If you're at the follower tier for 3 months, you're getting a sticker in the mail. If you're at the membership tier for 3 months, you're getting a t-shirt. The art coaching, you also get a t-shirt, but it's a different one just geared towards that. And maybe every 5-6 months, I change it up a little bit and I add posters or other stickers or other things in there as I can. So right now, if you joined Patreon, don't do it right now. On June 1st, if you joined Patreon, there's 192 exclusive posts in there. And I believe 171 of them are video tutorials. So there's a lot of content already there. And if I were probably going to price out 171 lessons, that would be more than $20 a month. So there's a lot already there, and it's building all the time. And I put new content all the time. All right, so you're in, let's just say virtually, you're in. I put kind of a little snapshot here of kind of ways that you can navigate around. Patreon is like a blog. And if you've ever been on a blog, you kind of scroll down, you see all the posts. It can be daunting at 192 posts. So I've built in some ways you can navigate around. So the first of which here is, you see these up here, you can search by media type. If you're like, I know Donna posted images, she did a post and showed all the images for whatever, you can just search image. There's also in there, it says videos, or it says podcasts or audio. I don't have any podcasts, but if I did, that's where you'd find them. You could also search by tier. Let's say you are at the $5 tier and there's 192 posts, but not all of those posts are at the $5 tier, and you don't want to have to see the ones you can't see. You can just click the tier, fan tier, follower tier, and it will just extricate only the things that you want to see. So only the things you have access to. You can also search by month. If you're like, Donna posted something in February that I want to see, you can click month, and then it will just isolate the post that I did in February, for example. And then you can just search for like sculpture. I want to see the sculpture pieces that Donna have done. You can type that in. But then there's this place here that says 45 more. These are the things that I personally tagged. So I've done a post and it's flowers, and you want to just see anything that's flowers. I've kind of put some cheat little ways to find the things that are flowers. Or maybe you want sculpture or abstract or encaustic. You can kind of just click on those and easy navigate through everything. But I am going to show you real quick because it does get confusing. I'm going to go to my actual page. It's here. And nope, that is not the actual page. That was a test to see if you were paying attention. It is here. Okay, it's not going to show up. We're just going to stay here then. Never mind. I'll show you after this. All right. And then the last thing I really want to focus on is to say in Patreon, it allows the creators to set goals. And you can set a goal for at 500 patrons at this. I'm going to do something for my patrons. And so my goal is 500 patrons. I'm going to do, instead of one inspiration any day art journaling, I'm going to do 2 a month. I'm close. I think I'm about 346. No, this is a little bit off. I'm thinking 2 more, but my goal is to get to 500 patrons. And then when we get there, then we celebrate, and there's going to be an extra art journaling lesson a month. We've kind of come to the end here, but there's a lot that happens there. It's everything that I'm doing and sharing, but it also, Patreon allows me to share it in a way that it opens a studio door and lets you in. And so it is time for Q&A. Hopefully that was clear as mud as I went through that. And I'm sure I left room for a lot of questions in your head. So if you have questions, I want to hear what questions it kind of sparked in you, or not. I see you, Beverly. I see you.
Okay, a senior citizen, but anyway, I mean, I do computer stuff, but I have to say, I get frustrated sometimes in trying to navigate the websites. So I'm confused right at this point as to, quite often it's like if I want to go find the recording of a class that I've paid for. And I don't know if that, is that Patreon, or do I go in through your website?
So great question.
I just have trouble navigating to find what I want when I'm thinking about it.
I actually think that what you're saying is one of the reasons people just stop. It's too much. So if you bought an online workshop on my website, say Abstract Florals or Color Pop, that is at my website. You went to my website to purchase it, and that's where it is. Patreon is something separate. So it's, again, that freestanding building with a whole bunch of artists in it. And so Patreon is a subscription. It's not, and nothing that I do in Patreon is on my website. So if you bought it on my website, it's at my website. Patreon is like this, it's never ending. It's a continuum to see what I'm doing. I'll work on classes, I'll work on lessons, but they're not like a start and finish. And the website, and that's why I'm kind of getting away from that, is that I feel like I don't work in a vacuum. We're going to paint abstract flowers. We're going to start here. We're going to do lesson 2, 3, and 4, and then we're done. You're finished with abstract flowers. Thanks for playing along. I feel like as an artist, I think even like you, Beverly, I've watched you do all kinds of things in your studio and classes. It would be more beneficial to learn processes of artists, what they're doing, how they're doing it, show the evolution, that it's not in a time capsule. It is ever changing and ever growing. And that's what Patreon, let's open the door into my studio and what I'm doing. And I share it with whatever I'm doing. So is it like the Zoom stuff too? Like, is that also confusing?
Yeah, I think I better understand that now that, when you record a Zoom class that I paid for, then you put out the YouTube connection to pick it up. It's just a matter of me being smart enough to save that in my favorites or something so I can find it again.
Yeah. And so the way, like doing some live Zoom classes, you can't, well, you can, but it's clumsy, but you can't really teach live on Patreon. So there's this live component that I love to do so I can interact, so I can have those questions in real time. And then there's the stuff that I'm doing in my studio when nobody's around. Like a regular artist goes to their studio space and works and does their stuff. That's more what Patreon is. However, when I do, I know have you been a part of the color collabs with me and Sally Lynn? Any of those live?
I was able to do some in the beginning. I haven't been able to keep up with it. Yeah.
So the benefit of Patreon is, even if you don't do any of the free Zooms, and this goes to all the free Zooms, not the paid Zooms. The free Zooms, after they're done, if you missed it, I put it on Patreon. No matter what subscriber tier you're at, it's available for you. And also Sally Lynn does some pretty amazing things by creating these PDF handouts and all this reference material that you don't get unless you're part of Patreon. So there are some benefits to that kind of stuff too. And I will say I am moving away from doing those stop and start classes and moving to Patreon. So there is kind of like the website stuff where you've bought a class and now like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing this. So there is like this stop and start, the overlap just a little bit, but my future is going towards this community, this shared ideas, this making myself 100% transparent and helping artists solve the problems that they don't need to have. It would have been nice when I was coming up in the ranks if I would have had somebody help me, show me. There wasn't a whole lot then. And so that's kind of why I want Patreon to be the way it is. So it becomes more of a family and a community and a shared experience.
Okay, but so that makes it sound like that you won't be doing Zoom classes then.
No, I am, because I like the live, but I won't be doing more of the launching a new online workshop where you take it without me. You start and finish, you bought it, you can reference it, but it's really separate than any interaction. I am doing the live Zooms as classes,
I like the live Zoom. Yeah.
But my regular practice of art, I make 100% available on Patreon.
Okay.
Clear as mud?
No, I mean, that did help clear it up some. It's just,
well, and you also know, Beverly, you message me, you can call my studio phone anytime and I'll walk you through and answer questions. That I really hate email when people are struggling because it's just easier to pick up a phone and just walk through it with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Is anybody else?
I just want to say that I did exactly the same thing this past week. Before I got the note on this class, I was like, where the hell are my classes? Like, are they here? Are they over there? So I did the same thing. So it could be an age thing, Beverly, but I'm going to pretend that it's not.
And, I get it too, because there's too much out there. The other reason too, not to do static online classes, you buy it, you go take it. There's too much of that. I think COVID really made me aware that I'm an introvert, so I could not go out of my house for a year and a half and I was still fine, but I still needed people. And I think that's the thing that's missing. There's a disconnect. An artist makes an online workshop, puts it together, packages it up, puts it on the internet, walks away from it. And I just don't want to be a part of that cycle anymore. And Patreon allows me not to be working in a vacuum. That's the best way to do it. I want the interaction. I want to be able to share, and I want to be a part of somebody else's journey if I can help.
And for a lot of groups, they're all, they may be starting up again, but they're not starting, we've met in parking lots at the museum saying, oh, here's some art supplies. Let's pass these around.
Yeah, it's kind of put everything, it's spun it on its ear, hasn't it?
Yeah. But I think that the people I know have been more creative. The ones that are now, they're just trying harder. Okay, I'm going to take the time for myself because after all, what the hell's the difference?
It's true.
You gotta take care of yourself.
First and foremost.
And now I want to apologize, but my mother called during your thing to tell me, she said, do you know I'm going to be a great grandmother? And I thought, yes, Mom, I'm going to be a grandma, but I couldn't tell you. So I had to take the call.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Now at least it's a month later, I can say, okay, it's good.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Thanks.
More fun for you.
Well, they live in Vermont. It's a once a year kind of thing, twice a year maybe. So
Oh,
it'll be good.
I'm putting in the notes here the link. So this link that I'm putting in there is the link to May, this month's Inspiration Any Day journal. So I have made that accessible to anybody. So you don't have to have a subscription for watching this. I wanted to make sure you had access. You can play around. You can kind of fumble around in there. But that link there will get you to watching that free lesson. Did I get any more questions? I know that it's, I see you. I see Galaxy 10.
Donna, I'm sorry, I didn't get to put my name in. I'm Leah from Texas, from Houston.
Hi, Leah.
Hi. So like I've taken a lot of your classes. I've purchased a lot of your classes. And then, so the Patreon would be totally new. So I'd probably do like that because I haven't done any of your mixed media things. So that's kind of interesting. But is it just directly like almost like us watching your classes, or do we have like, like people have Facebook where you can go to where they can interact with each other if they have questions, or, like I know that you said with your highest tier or your others that they can interact with you or whatever. But if anytime we have questions or if we want to interact or see others' art, do we have that?
Yes. So I'm going to see if I can pull it up this time. I don't know why it was not working. I'm going to let's see if that, there we go. Can you see that? Can you see Inspiration Any Day?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So every single post, like a blog, allows for comments.
Oh.
So there is comments directly under, and you can see I answer all the comments underneath there, but there is also messaging. So you can private message me directly at any tier.
Okay.
So
okay.
you can it's just message right through there, but certainly you can message me email or any other way too. But yes, that was a great question. The one thing that you can't do, that it's just not gotten there yet, is to post photos, to share work. I do have a Facebook page that's called the Community of Artists Facebook page. It's the catch-all for anything and everything that puts there. But certainly you could also email me directly like, hey, I wanted to share what I made with you. And if you tag me on social media, I'm pretty much on social media all the time, I'll see it as well. So yeah, but that was a great question. There's absolutely. Did anybody else have any other questions? These are good questions.
I'm just curious. So anybody could become a Patreon. I mean,
Yes.
in your situation, create
Yes.
the spot.
That's a great question too. Yes. And I want to encourage the more artists using Patreon, the more patrons there will be. It's like a beautiful kind of mix. It's not special in the sense that you have to be somebody that has 10,000 followers on Facebook in order to have a Patreon. That's not how it works. Anybody. And I would encourage every single artist that wants to build a following, that wants to share what they're doing. And I think it's also really great if maybe you are just starting out and you want to learn and get really used to sharing or videotaping or taking pictures or taking polls or whatever it is, you can kind of test the waters here without having to have some major robust website configured, designed, all of that stuff, because Patreon has done all the technical back end work so that you can post videos and share your work. And there's even like audio, like if you wanted to do podcasts, you don't want your face on there, but you want to talk with your interview somebody, you can do that on there. There's about 12 different ways that you can create a post in Patreon as a creator.
So it is a way of just putting your work out there.
Yes and no, because it is subscriber based.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can put free content out there, but really people are at a subscription. Like you can, but people do have $1 tiers, $2 tiers. You can set the
Huh.
tiers any way that works for you. And when you go on there, if you start searching for maybe your favorite artists or just watercolor or whatever you want to do, you'll see that a list of people will show up. There are people creators, artist creators on there that have 20,000 patrons. They've been doing this a while. Musicians will launch their original music to their patrons first through Patreon before they make it public. So there's a lot of different ways, and it is geared towards a creative person. Can you also sell on Patreon like a website or Facebook? It's not made for that. It's mostly geared towards sharing creative content, not selling, which is kind
Right.
of a good thing too. Because then, well, that said, I can post a class and be like, hey, or I can say, hey, I launched a new art series on my website. I can use it like that, but you can't sell goods like in e-commerce.
Okay. Just
Did that make
just
sense?
trying to understand the whole concept more. Yeah.
It's big. It's so big because it has a lot of things you can do, which is a good thing. But it is new. And just like, Facebook, when Facebook first came out or when blogs first came out, it was a new technology and nobody wanted to learn it. It was clumsy. It's like getting a new iPhone and then you're like, get the old one to do it on the new one. Just hand it to somebody and make it work, it is, that's why you need to educate in order for it to be viable. And I'm putting so much energy into it. I have to share what's happening there. And it doesn't happen without patrons. It's not a one-sided, where a website is a one-sided thing. This is absolutely not a website because it is a two-sided endeavor. It's almost the acknowledgement. It is the acknowledgement that I can't be an artist without patrons. It just doesn't, one can't exist without the other. And so you would develop a relationship between the people that support you. And how I've decided to develop that relationship is to turn the camera on and record. And whether I'm doing an abstract or doing a color series, this is not stuff that I'm saying, this would make a good class. People are going to want to buy it. This is going to knock it out of the park. This is me as what I'm liking, what I'm exploring. And I talk through that process too. I record it, but I'm also sharing as I'm talking about what I'm doing as, I really thought this was going to go in this way or that way. I brought in this color, or, oh my goodness, that just went bad. I've got to figure out how to salvage this. And then I talk about mistakes and how mistakes are something that really guide you to the next big thing. And so it is it's more, like I said, walking into my studio space, sitting down with me while I'm working, instead of me saying, all right, I've made the best class. I'm going to make a faces class and it's going to be this cover image. And then we're going to do this. And it's 7 videos. It's just a different way to approach the relationship.
I appreciate that. I have a much better understanding of it now. It's like, I used to, I lived a little bit farther away, but years back, I lived closer to Alexandria, Virginia. And I don't know if you ever heard of the Torpedo Factory.
Yes. With the studios in it.
Yeah. And I loved going there for that reason. It was the big building with all the studios.
And that's how it's virtual. So it's not tangible, but once you're in there, it's so tangible. It's hard to communicate the computer screen from what's happening. And that was my only way to do it. But that torpedo what's a Torpedo Factory?
Yeah. Torpedo Factory. Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm not even sure if it's still there. Is it?
It's still there. I don't know what COVID did to it. I haven't gone there in, obviously in the couple of years. Yeah.
Or anywhere for that fact.
Yeah.
Leah, was it Lee or Leah? I'm sorry. Leah, you asked the materials. Yes. So what I do is I'll put a class Hopefully this one has it. Otherwise, this is going to be a really bad example of me saying, yeah, I do that.
Well, I know you do it in your videos, but
So
I just didn't know if you do it on here. So yeah.
yeah, so you see, this is the inspiration any day, and then it supplies reference. So I put a reference to all the supplies that I use. I put links. I have an Amazon shop. I used to have a
Okay.
brick and mortar store, but once I didn't have a brick and mortar store anymore, I partnered with Amazon, and I now have an affiliate. So I put the links to everything on Amazon, and if you choose to buy something on those links, I actually get a little kickback. At the end of the month, I make like $4.27, but still. Um, it's a good way to take you directly to where you want to go. The other good thing
Yeah,
is typically it's a one-stop shopping. If you needed something, it's right there.
true.
But yeah.
True. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm. That. Any other questions? I know it's a big thing I'm sharing with you, but like I said, I need to educate because there's a lot of stuff happening there. And I think that some people, depending where they are, would really be upset if they knew somebody was giving the information they wanted and they could have had it all along. But don't sign up until June 1st.
If you want to jump up a tier for a month or something, you do that at the first of the month also?
You can do that at any time. So let's say you decide you're going to join at $5 for June on June 1st. And then you get halfway through the month and you're like, you know what? I want to see all the $20 content. You can go up. It won't take $25. It'll just add $15 to your $5 subscription. Does that make sense? So for June, you paid $5. You're like, I'm just coming in at the $5 tier. And say on June 15th, you're like, no, I want all of the stuff. You can change it and it will deduct what you've already paid and add the remaining. Or you can just wait to the next month and go up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, like if I wanted to go up for a month or two and then I could go back down, right?
Yeah.
And
So going up, you can go at any time, right? If you've paid $5 on June 1st and on June 2nd, you're like, no, I want to go to the $20 tier. You can just go up to $20 tier and you've already paid $5 and it will add $15 for so that you can access the $20 stuff. But let's say you want to go back down the next month to $5. I would tell you to change your membership before the first of the month so that when they deduct the money for the first, they're only going to take what you want them to take. So if
Okay.
you're going up anytime, but if you want to change the next month and go down, change your membership before the end of the month. It's a automatic thing. So
Right.
if you subscribe, it's not like you pay $5 once. You leave your credit card. It's a subscription. So it'll take $5 if you're at the $5 tier for the longevity that you want to subscribe. If you want to go down a tier, the end of the month, before it gets to the first, before they start charging on the first of the month, change your tier.
Okay.
Okay, Donna, I do have a question. So when you're talking about the up and down, so like if you go back down, you're at the $5, say like me, you go from $5 up to, and then I decide 20, and then I go, oh, okay, I want to go back down to the 5. You know how you were talking about the content and what you have access to? So like, is that the only thing you only have access to? Like say $5 now, then you get the 20, but then you decide to go back down. So you only have access to the 20 for the time that you buying the 20? Or do you, once you buy the 20, you have access to 20 and the 5? Or how does that
Great
work with the
question.
subscription? Okay, thank you.
So let's just use June 1st. You say, I'm going to go at the $5 tier. And on June 3rd, you decide, you know, I'm going to check out the $20 tier. And you decide to pay more money to access at the $20 tier. If you decide you don't want the $20 tier for the next month and you go down to the 5, you go into your memberships and you change it to 5, you've already paid 20. So you have access to all of the content for that month for 20. They're not going to give you $15 back because you're going down to the 5, But once you change it to the 5, you will actually have access to all the $20 content for that entire month. That was a great question. All right. If you don't have any more comments or questions, I won't keep you here any longer. Make sure in the chat you copy that link I put in there. Maybe I'll drop it one more time just in case you didn't see it. That is the link to the Patreon. You will be able to access that full video. Like I said, don't subscribe if you're going to subscribe until the 1st, because it will charge you twice. But if you have questions, here, I'll just put my email in there too, Donna@DonnaDowney.com. You can email me at any time. I'm pretty quick on answering any questions. So if you have questions about this, about anything else, I know like Beverly, you were talking about, I bought classes on your website. They're still there. Nothing changes. Anything you bought on the website, not going away. This is a new in addition. So it's not replacing what was before. All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate you spending Saturday night with me.
Thank
All
you.
right. It's I think I'm going to pour myself a drink. Have a good night.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you.
Thank you.